Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's middle of the week, which of course means it is match preview showtime. And after a decent point last week on the road at John Coleman's former club, Accrington Stanley, is back on home turf this coming Saturday as we take on a slightly out of form league leaders, Walsall. But we know it will be a tough game nonetheless because they are still top for a reason. And I'm pleased to say, making I think his second or third appearance on the channel, is Simon Ward from Walsall Fan TV. The joy and the pain. Look at that. I know what I'm doing here. You'll have to, if you're a Gills fan, you'll have to look in a dictionary to find out the definition of joy this season. But obviously for Walsall, they've had certainly more of the former and a little bit of the latter more recently. But Simon, first of all, I hope you're well and welcome back to the channel. And I hear you have some plug-in you want to do before we start this of a new book you've got out.
Do you know, quite a few people have a sort of little flutter, don't they? And I've written a book, Gambling Now the Score, and it talks about both sides of the gambling world.
Okay.
As it is, like perfectly constructed adverts draw people in and the temptations and that sort of thing. The book's a must read for anybody who likes to have a little flutter. It's about sort of, it's not exactly saying don't gamble, but it's sort of talking about the limits.
Gamble safely, yeah.
A way to do it in a sensible way. And it's particularly a good read for parents of teenagers, because they're the ones that get pulled in the most. But yeah, I think we'll put a link in the description. Gambling Now the Score, get it on ebook or paperback.
Yeah, send me a link and I'll add it to the description at the bottom of the video by all means, and then anyone who wants to have a look can go and check it out at their own free will.
Nice one, thank you.
Right, gambling. Are Walsall gambling with their title aspirations at the moment, I guess, is the question we need to ask. Let's have a quick look at the recent form. We'll run through the Gills quickly. It is 8 points from the last 18 for John Coleman's men. That's come in the way of 2 draws, 2 wins and 2 defeats. Then wins have come against Bradford and Morecambe to 0. There's been draws against Carlisle United and most recently Accrington Stanley, and the reverses came against Fleetwood and Newport. We're actually the informed side, despite Walsall being top of the league, which is quite surprising. The Sadlers have 6 points from the last 6 games. That's come in the way of a win against Morecambe, draws against Cheltenham, Carlisle, and most recently Bromley. But there have been defeats against Swindon and Grimsby Town as well. So, sorry, is it 6? Sorry, have I worked that out wrong? 3, 4.
Yeah.
6, yeah, it is 6. Yeah, sorry, 3 defeats. Yeah,
point a game.
Points a game is not what you need during the running, but you currently sit top with 69 points from 37, so it's not all bad. I have to ask about the form, Simon. Obviously, we've just mentioned the last 6. It's not great, a point per game, like you say. But if we go back further, I think from the start of December to middle of January, you won 9 games on the spin in League 2. Absolutely flying. I think you was about 12, 13 points clear. Everyone was saying title was pretty much sewn up. Since then, you've tasted victory just twice in 12 games, though. And what looked like pretty much an insurmountable lead has now been pretty much eroded. Although it seems that the teams in behind don't want to leapfrog you into the top spot. It seems that it's almost a poison chalice at the moment. I'm going to say it, and it's a stupid question. Can you put your finger on it? I guess if you could, you'd tell Matt Sadler and it wouldn't be happening. But how come it's gone so incredibly wrong over the last 12 games?
I think you talk to some Walsall fans during the 9-game winning run. We did have a couple of those where we sort of got out of jail at the last minute.
Okay.
That sort of helped us over the line. But I think being top of the league does bring extra pressure.
Absolutely.
To a young team. And then when things aren't going so well, the sort of the confidence of the team approaching also sort of steps up, and like everybody wants to beat top of the league have a bump. This is the time to beat them. So that's contributed to it. The 2 disappointing games, the Swindon and the Grimsby, were home defeats. And our home form has been absolutely brilliant. So that is the most concerning. People point to Nathan Lowe as being the catalyst, but it's the defence that let us down. In our winning run, we're hardly having a shot against us. Like there's hardly a shot on target against us. And Tommy Simpkin was gaining the plaudits for clean sheets, but somebody stated that he was actually the second worst keeper for shots faced. Because on the basis when Walsall do concede a shot on target, it's generally when we're sort of exposed and he's exposed. So maybe that's a little bit unfair on him because he's a good keeper. But I mean, occasionally he's been caught out. Sam Hornby came in on Thursday and he had they conceded 2 shots on target and they scored both of them. First one he was unsighted. Second one was a Harry McCurdy lob over the top of him. Totally sort of wasn't much he could do. So yeah, worrying from the defensive side of things. The back three is a very young back three.
Okay.
Donovan Daniels and Priestley Farquharson are the 2 experienced guys that should have been, or we would expect to have been in there. And we've done remarkably well without them. But now the pressure's on and the tension has risen. Not having them available, because they've been pretty much out. Well, Priestley Farquharson has pretty much been out for the season. I think he's played about 3 games or something like that. Donovan Daniels has played a few games, but then he's been out injured again. So not having those about has put pressure on the team, particularly on the back three. So yeah, that's where the concern is. And I don't know whether there's a different way out of it really. Midfield has been very strong. What we're doing, last 30 minutes, we're bringing on extra 2 midfielders, swapping them effectively. And that increased intensity, maintaining the intensity of the high press throughout the 90 minutes, got us a lot of second half goals. But we had an injury to George Hall, who's on loan from the Blues from Birmingham City.
Okay.
And also Jack Earing, Walsall players coming back from injury. Both of those, they're sort of coming on last 30 minutes and were being excellent, but they both got injured pretty much the same time, which was sort of end of December. So that meant the Charlie Lakin and Jamie Jellis, who'd been having great seasons, were now having to play 90 minutes. And particularly Jamie Jellis, young player, he had an illness and he played through an illness. The energy levels have slowly deteriorated. And you know, when you're winning every week, as you know,
No.
we know over the years and that sort of stuff. When you're winning every week, you don't feel tired.
No, of course.
And when suddenly you lose a couple of games and things turn, that's when you realise you're actually on your arse really and knackered. And I think that's what's happened with our midfield. In the transfer window, Matt Sadler bought in some midfield replacements, cover. But Alfie Chang from Blues is not really fit to play when he came in on loan.
Yep.
So he's not really featured. Darius Lipswick on loan from Stoke. He's never played EFL. He hasn't played EFL yet. Young lad. So he's not featured. He's not been on the bench. So he brought 2 players in who've not helped, which is a strange one.
Yeah, it is, because like you say, regardless of where you are, unless you're sort of mid-table and nothing's happening with your season, you're either trying to bring people in January to get away from a line or to get to a line, aren't you? In your case, it's to try and win the title, which is what the talk would have been at the start of January. I know you've mentioned Nathan Lowe, and you're saying he's not the reason, or certainly not the only reason why the form's dropped off, but it can't just be a coincidence, because I think his last game was the 11th of January. and then the run has then started since then, where you've struggled to win football matches. Just because he was that good, he has to have had a massive effect on the team in terms of
Yeah,
how you play. I mean, 20 goal contributions in 22 appearances is staggeringly good.
yeah.
For a kid. 15 goals, 5 assists, gone back to Stoke. It's the nature of the beast, unfortunately, when you get a loan player and they do really well, and they end up being either recalled and played at their parent club, or they get sent higher up the food chain. Has he had an effect on other players as well, his absence? Because I was looking at that run of 9 games, Simon, where you won, and Jamil Mack got 4 in 7 during that run as well. So they were prolific together. I mean, he's not been awful since, but he's only got 3 and 11 or 12 since Lowe departed. So what impact has it had? I know you've said it's been the other end where you've become more open and susceptible to conceding more goals, but it kind of not had an effect in an attacking sense because he was just such a big part of the first half of the campaign.
It has had a big effect. But I mean, it would be easy to say, oh, it's just because Nathan Lowe's gone, and that's not the case.
Of course.
But yeah, Nathan Lowe obviously has been a big miss, but it's not just about that.
No, absolutely, and it's up to Matt Sadler and the other players to step up, and the coaching team to find ways to win football matches and get you over the line without him, isn't it, as well? So and Matt Sadler's always a person that it always seems coincidence on every time me and you talk, there's question marks over Matt Sadler. It always seems to be we play you when you're in a bad run of form and Sadler's being questioned, and it is happening again. I mean, it's ridiculous if Sadler's fans are saying Matt Sadler has to go or anything like that. You're still top of the league.
No, I don't think so.
But is there things he could have done better in the last dozen games to have maybe turned the odd defeat into a draw, the odd draw into a win?
I think that there are a couple of things I want to cover. January was tough, the transfer window, because Walsall were doing so well. If you're trying to bring players in on loan from teams from a higher division, they're going to say, is he going to get game time?
Of course.
And with the way Walsall were playing at that point, it was like, I can't guarantee you game time.
No, because everyone else was doing so well, of course.
So if you're sending a player out on loan, the reason you're sending him is because you want him to have game time, and Walsall couldn't really guarantee game for anybody they're bringing in on loan.
No, that makes sense.
So that's perhaps why we got the players we got. When it was clear that Nathan Lowe was going, Matt Sadler said the phone was ringing off the hook with people who wanted to send strikers to Walsall because of how we'd sort of worked with that. And the choice he must have had, and then the player that we brought in was Ethan Wheatley, he won the under-18 treble with Man United. Scored some amazing goals for them, but hadn't played first team football. I think he had a couple of cameos for Manchester United, but he's not really played. So, and then you imagine the cocoon that he would have been mollycoddled in for Manchester United. So this 19-year-old lad suddenly is thrown on 30 minutes in when Jamil Mack goes off injured into Bradford away, and gets knocked all over the place, and it's a bit of a rude awakening for him. He started the following game against Fleetwood, and again got pushed around a lot. He did actually have a couple of chances, and if one of those had gone in, I think he'd have been up and running. But then the next game was back at home, home to Salford, and he got subbed off on 60 minutes, and you could see in his face he didn't sort of applaud the crowd. His head just went down and he skulked off, sort of thing. So for somebody who's had a pampered world, which from being with them from probably around the age of 7 or 8, it was probably the first time he'd been subbed. And I think that must have affected him in some way. Walsall actually replaced him with Danny Johnson, who scored 2 goals in the last 20 minutes to rescue a point in a game that we were 2-0 down on. So that was sort of a good turnaround. But Ethan Wheatley, I think it's no surprise a couple of weeks ago, Man United announced he'd had a new extension to his contract.
Okay.
So obviously, I think he must have had a big confidence dip with that going on. But I think Walsall have worked with him, and his confidence must be returning. He was on the bench against Bromley, didn't get on, and now he's off on international duty. So I think going and playing there will probably help his confidence as well. And I think he could still have a big part to play. But I come back to Matt Sadler's decision to bring in a player who hadn't played EFL was perhaps a risk.
Yeah, and hindsight is never wrong, is it? It's easy for us to sit here now, sort of 2 months down the line, and say that. So I understand from Sadler's point of view, he's probably hoping it turns out like another Nathan Lowe type situation, but it hasn't worked that way. And the other issue you've got, Simon, as well, is whoever came in to, and I say replace in inverting commas because it might not have been a direct replacement, but they're going to be compared to Nathan Lowe in that first half of the season. So you was going to do very well to get anyone to come even close to that.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Ethan Wheatley is a talent, a real good talent. He just needed time to settle, and I think because it coincided with Jamil Matt getting injured, so he didn't have the comfort of working alongside Jamil Matt. If he'd have been on the field with Jamil Matt, I think he'd have done a lot better because Jamil Matt would have protected him a little bit more. And then the balls were played up to him, and they're expecting him to win balls in the air when obviously he's more of a player with Premier League pedigree, where he wants the ball played to his feet and played ahead of him, and that wasn't happening. So challenges there. I think he'll still come good, and he might sort of surprise a few people in the last few games of the season.
Well, fingers crossed for your point of view, and it's always difficult, isn't it? Like you say, January window for players and for the people that are signing them as well, because there's more jeopardy on every game, isn't there, at this stage of the season? You know that if you'd signed him in the summer, you can give him sort of 15 games to bed in. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's not as important because there's more games to play. But now every sort of game's magnified, and you need people to hit the ground running, so to speak.
Yeah.
I keep using this date, 11th of January. He was 11 points clear of second, 14 of fourth, and 17 clear of the playoffs. In eighth, which is outside the playoffs. If we're looking at it today, that gap to second's been reduced from 11 to 8 to fourth. It's now down to 6. You've still got quite a buffer to 8. So I'm not saying you're going to completely fall out of the top 7, but
if we ended up in playoffs, we'd have no chance the way we are at the minute.
I was going to say, would playoffs now be seen as a failure this season?
If we ended up in the playoffs, I think I can't see we'd do anything with that.
Purely because the run of form would be such that the confidence would be bashed, and you always get a team that comes into the playoffs on a good run. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
We've got to finish top 3. 6 points clear of Doncaster in 4th. So I think we sort of mentioned the 3 games we've got coming up after Gillingham. Wimbledon at home, Doncaster away, and then Port Vale at home. Those 3 games are really going to sort of decide the season for us, I think.
Yeah, so I guess the most important one probably is Doncaster, because it's if you can stop them beating you, it maintains that gap or stretches it, doesn't it? But yeah, certainly. Yeah, if you can win 2 of the next 4, maybe Doncaster and Port Vale, that'd be nice. Then everybody's happy. But yeah, I can't see you not getting in the playoffs, because you probably only need another 6 points. So that'd get you to 75. But yeah, obviously it must be concerning given how good you was for so long, and the wheels have somewhat fallen off in recent weeks.
You did mention sort of Matt Sadler's decisions. There are on occasions he seems a bit nervous to make the changes. Against Cheltenham, which I'll give you a very brief summary of my week for that Cheltenham. I had an email hack. So I lost access to my YouTube channel and a lot of other stuff. So probably most stressful week of my life, I think, probably. when the whole world comes tumbling down. That was on the Monday, and on the Tuesday night, I'd already got my ticket for Cheltenham away. So didn't feel like leaving the house really, but sort of we went down, me and my lad, and then we were 2-0 up with 89 minutes left, and it was like, this is just the pickup I needed. Cheltenham throwing players on, Matt Sadler making no changes. They pull one back with a deflected shot. Well, it's a deflected shot that went straight to former player George Miller, who'd just come off the bench. So he pulled one back on 89 minutes. At that point, you think we've just got to see this out. And for me, the Walsall players were tiring, and I think I've sort of mentioned the tiredness sort of factor as well.
Yeah,
that would have been the time to bring on 2 or 3 players just to close it out.
Yeah.
And then it was another deflected shot. And the guy from the edge of the box shot, hit our defender Liam Gordon's foot, and it deflected into the roof of the net from his shot. And then Cheltenham obviously celebrating like they'd won the FA Cup sort of thing, just getting a point at home. But I mean, for us it was devastating because Walsall had controlled the game. Cheltenham had been good, in fairness, they were a good side, but we'd done the job on them, and we're sort of sitting pretty, ready to go home, back on it. So that knocked the confidence of the team, I think, a little bit. That sort of conceding 2 goals in 4 minutes, effectively, at the end of the game, and that was pretty much last kick as well. So yeah, frustrating one.
Yeah, definitely. It's, we all know how good it is when you score a goal in the last minute, but equally you always have to remember there's someone on the other side of the coin, unfortunately, isn't there, here as well. So we've all been there.
Particularly with 2 late goals like that, and obviously with the week I was having as well, it was sort of like, so I was on the floor really.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. I think we all thought this game was going to be postponed.
Yeah, well,
the reverse fixture was called off originally in November, wasn't it? And we had to play on a Tuesday night, which actually wasn't that too long ago. And I will touch on it quickly. I thought it was an even game. I thought your goal was soft. I mean, then we scored our goal of the season. Like, no one's going to better that strike from Robbie McKenzie to get level. And I thought we should have had a penalty afterwards. But this one, you've got even more call-ups. It's 6 in total. So it's Liam Gordon, Tommy Simpkin, Ethan Wheatley, David Akagbu, Ronan Mayer, and Darius Lipsick.
Yeah.
So as Gills fans, I mean, we were travelling back from Accrington and talking about it on Saturday, and all saying, "Oh, Walsall's going to be off. There's no way that's getting played." And then I think it started to filter through that Walsall had said, "No, we're gonna not request the postponement." So Liam Gordon, Tommy Simpkin, David Akagbu are definitely first team players. They're going to be missing.
Yeah.
Wheatley, you've already mentioned, has sort of been cameo roles.
Would have been on the bench. Yeah.
But Mayer and Darius Lipsick, are we saying less of an impact their absence than the other quartet?
But Lipswick wouldn't have been on the bench.
Okay.
And Ronan Mayer's on loan at the minute at Tamworth. He's gone another month before he'll be back.
Okay.
He's a player, given our form, he's a player that we really wanted. I thought we should have had back.
Okay.
But he's getting plenty of game time at Tamworth, and he's doing really well. Scored a screamer on in the last game. That I put on my TikTok. So he hit it from the edge of the corner of the box into the top corner. So so he's playing with lots of confidence and getting his game time. The problem is when he wasn't on loan, he wasn't getting any minutes, and at his age, he's only just sort of 19, going 20. I think he's 29 still. I think he's more just got 20, but he needs game time, so he's getting regular game time, so he's happy with that. But I think he's got another month at Tamworth and then he's back. So I would expect him to feature in the last 4 or 5 games of the season.
Okay.
But I think we could do with him now, really.
Yeah, it's a lot, and there's a couple of people that potentially. I mean, you've had long-term injuries, haven't you? at centre back. You've already mentioned
like
big experience, Daniels and Farquharson as well, big players for you.
Priestley and Donovan Daniels missing.
And Ellis Harrison come off against
Ellis Harrison went off with a hamstring, so he might be missing.
So it could be almost double figures that are unavailable.
Yeah, Connor Barrett's suspended as well. So both our wing backs, who some people would say have been found out a little bit.
Okay.
But neither of them are playing on Saturday. So I think if Matt Sadler wasn't so keen on 3 at the back, it would be the perfect opportunity to play 4 at the back and play 4-4-2.
Okay.
But
you don't seem convinced he's that flexible.
No. He's
plus we play a back 3 as well, so I could understand it maybe if he matches it up.
Yeah. No, we'll be playing back 3. I think that the players to watch out for Walsall, Evan Weir's like to be playing. He'd be playing left-sided centre half, but his delivery is very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Allen, 13, 14 goal contributions this season. He's going to be playing further forward, so he's probably going to be playing left wing back. So there's some challenges there. Asimwe might even play left wing back and Adama right wing back. So there's a few options there, but there's going to be a few players in a few positions that perhaps aren't used to being there. So could be a slightly disjointed performance, or could be the extra energy that we've been looking for. So
that's it. It sounds like it could go one or two ways. You either, like you say, it could be a little bit square pegs round holes and it doesn't work, but I suppose some people's absence is another people's opportunity, isn't it? So you've got people that can step in and if they play well, if you get a result, they keep the shirt for the next game. So you hopefully, from your point of view, that's what you want to happen. Obviously, I'm hoping it's the former and that all these that come in are rubbish and we win comfortably, but that's not the Gillingham way.
The interesting one is Nathan Asimwe. He can play left or right side as a wing back or full back. I think defensively he's probably stronger than Connor Barrett.
Okay.
But himself doesn't describe himself as being that good going forward. So that's some part of his game he's sort of developing. So that could be one. Quite often Walsall like to keep it tight first half and then go for it second half, which is sort of matched up by the figures. We scored a lot more goals in the second half than we have in the first half. So Asimwe perhaps first half keeping it nice and tight, and then Albert Adama coming on second half because his crossing ability is outstanding. So there's possibility there.
Be interesting, won't it?
Yeah.
7 draws in the last 15 between the two sides.
Oh, that sounds like a bet.
5 draws in the last 7 at Priestfield. Read the book, do it sensibly, people. Yeah, so 7 in the last 15 in the league. 5 draws in the last 7 at the Priestfield. Last season was a draw at the Priestfield. Your only away win in the last 7 came against 10-man Morecambe. We've taken 7 points from the last 12 available at home. I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, but everything screams draw, doesn't it?
Well, I'm thinking a pound on a draw wouldn't be a bad bet, perhaps.
So, what is your score prediction, though? Not as an author of a betting book, but as a fan of a team that's still top of the league. We can't forget that. Still should go up. How do you see it finishing come 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon?
Well, I think with Jamil Mack getting a goal on Thursday and Levi Amanchi getting a goal on Thursday, I think the confidence is going to be up there. And I think we might just about do you 2-1.
Okay. Fair enough. I've written down 1-1.
1-1.
Somewhere there. If we get the first goal, who knows? Generally, we've always been a better side that leads from the front. If we chase in, we struggle to pick up points. There's not been many points from losing positions this season. But yeah, for me, everything says low scoring draw, which I don't think would be a disaster for either team. Simon, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Appreciate you coming on. Really appreciate your time and your knowledge. And Gills have just been pain and pain all this season. So fingers crossed we'll get a little bit more of this next season. Like I said, Simon's details, his Twitter handle, are in the description at the bottom of the video. The link to his book he is going to kindly send me, so I'll put that down there as well for anyone who wants to check it out.
Yeah.
As always, thanks for watching. Whether you're a Gills fan or a Sadlers fan, please consider hitting that like button and please consider pressing subscribe. It is free to do so and it really helps me out. We'll be back Saturday at the Midfield for another big game for a match day live. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week. And most importantly, up the Gills.